Well, I came on today with just a little more to share, and I do want to say that since my parents are out of town again, as I mentioned in the last carving video, this is a time when I kind of have this little area of the basement to myself where they're not going to be walking back and forth, so it kind of gives me a good time just to kind of get on here, just to do a little more demonstrating as to how I sew and stuff this whale. And we're going to get on to another addition to it. I can't remember which edition we were on last time I checked YouTube, but here is another addition to that video. And what I've already done is I have already put some polyfill stuffing into the whale here, but I'm going to do a little bit more of that just to kind of, I say, take it a little further as it needs to go, and to kind of work along as it needs to be. And this is the step we're going to take for right now, just to kind of stuff it in. Last time around, I might have had a little pencil or pen that I used to turn it out, but sometimes there might have been times I've had to use that to stuff. But I finally went out and bought another set of knitting needles recently. Hopefully that last one I had, I probably laid somewhere near here where I can have it to use as we go about this. Yes, I found it over here. And this is a little work where we're going to try to stuff along into the thing. And oh, well, I say that this is something that can be fairly simple to do if you know what you're doing. I mean, I tell y'all, this was something that growing up I always watched my mother do, always watched my grandmother do whenever they kind of stuffed these things and filled them. People who didn't grow up in the kind of family I grew up in, sometimes they don't always know, like, what you actually stuff the animals with. But this stuff that comes from the store and the fabric store and Walmart, that's what we use. I would see them do it, so I knew what they did. And so, and I know that, like, even though I only took a home ec class 1 year in school, I took it in the 6th grade, because at that time, I mean, there was a certain schedule I took it. And I mean, when I got into the 7th and 8th grade, I started doing chorus, which was a year-round class, and there were just certain electives you didn't have time to do when you took that. So that was just kind of the way that work went. I never stuffed an animal in home ec class, but I had some classmates in some of my academic courses in the 7th grade who stuffed and sewed things in home ec, so I probably kind of looked at theirs a little bit and would get little ideas as to how they probably did it. And I've been blessed by all the things I've heard. You know, it's like there was a young lady who, she's a barista at Starbucks, has been a few months now. And one night I was sitting at the bar because all the tables were taken there, and she was working behind the counter, saw me stuffing a little possum there, and she kind of suggested to me, with all the denim that I use, that I could probably try to stuff some bears and rabbits, kind of like her grandmother made for her and her sisters as kids. And that was something I told her that, you know, a lot of people make teddy bears and rabbits. I've even seen denim teddy bears on Etsy before. But it's kind of come to be the kind of things, whereas my mother suggested to me before, since so many people make teddy bears, it would be kind of a little more interesting to try to make some animals like nobody else makes. And I mean, I'd say that few people there are who sew sea creatures out of anything. I've never met a person besides myself who stuffed sea creatures out of denim before. But that's kind of the work that's been coming along here. So I've enjoyed my own part in it, and there's probably been a few times I've probably posted some of these on Etsy, but they might not have sold too well. I mean, I've advertised a lot of stuff on Etsy, had people ask me about it, had people kind of put it in their carts sometimes. Sometimes I looked at the item and I saw how many carts it was already in, and but I never sold anything on there. If I had been able to keep my shop up over the holiday season, I might have been able to, but I mean, because of the rise in shipping costs, I had to close it, so I wasn't able to keep it going. What I want to say here is that there's a place here along the stuff hole where you kind of sew to the side a little bit, and then kind of, for after you've stuffed it part way, kind of leave that little area open so you can put a little bit more work into it, and that'll probably make it stuff a whole lot better, stuff a whole lot easier once you go about it. It's a good way to work about these things, and this is just, I'd say, quite the way it's going to go. We're going to go to the other side, kind of on the area near the tail, kind of sew a little bit along a little edge of the stuff hole here, kind of work alongside of it, make it so it will get a little in the right way. Bless all this work. Bless all this work, I say. This is going to be a long ways of going for us. I say that little times in our lives, we need a little work to do in our lives, and little things we take care of, little things we manage. I will say today I was inside McLeod's, and there's a little back area of that coffee house where it's a place where people with certain types of disabilities can go just to kind of get away from the crowd and the noise and to relax a little bit. And kind of went back there today with my tablet because it's my baby niece's birthday, and my parents are out of town for it, and my brother and sister live in Columbus, where my niece also lives, and so does my brother's wife, which is my niece's mother. And so, as far as that all went, I was there today, and I kind of went into that back area and turned on my tablet just to kind of talk to my niece a little bit, say hello to her, wish her a happy birthday. And so, hers is kind of like in the same month as mine. It wasn't that many weeks ago. I just had my own birthday, and so it was just a good time to be able to give my little niece a wish too. Today was her second birthday. She turned 2 years old today. There hadn't been many celebrations of her I'd been able to attend, and didn't really know what kind of baby she was until not too many months ago, back in November. My brother and his wife came to visit us. There was something they were in town for that they came to see us for, so we sort of took care of that, and I'd say as far as that went, it went very well. It went fine. We got things taken care of, and moreover, I mean, I just kind of got to where, since she made up with me after being here for a while, I mean, I didn't realize how much I really loved that baby until then, because for a long time it was all because of the pandemic. I hadn't been able to see her. I don't really like to travel or stay in other people's houses, so that was probably one reason I would have never taken the trip. It was the pandemic was so bad at that time with no vaccines or anything. Couldn't have stayed in a motel to go there, and I'd say that some of the baby years I kind of missed out on, but I knew I'd have many more to celebrate with her the older she'd get, and it just so happened when she came to my house, I played with her a little bit, and she got on the floor and played blocks with me, and kind of came to realize that loved her more than I thought I did. Always knew I did somewhat, but never really realized how much until I finally got to play with her. And I tell you, so many people were telling me what a good uncle they thought I'd be when they knew she came around, and sometimes I doubted that. Sometimes I just didn't know how much I'd do about that, but I'd say it seems to have gone pretty well. I've gotten used to her. I kind of knows how sweet a baby she can really be, and she'll adjust to you and kind of do a little better with you. So I'd say probably the first time I ever got on a Zoom or FaceTime or Skype call or something like that with her, she was just kind of a little scared because she didn't know her Uncle Jonathan. But there's just things like that where they'll kind of get to know you a little better the older they get, understand you a little better, and that's kind of how that goes. I do want to tell you, I kind of also got to sew in another part of the stuff hole that is near the front fin, and coming along on that, we're going to do it here. I tell you, I've never been skilled to teach. I mean, I can figure out how to do some of these things, but never really went to college or anything or ever learned how to teach these things. So it'll just kind of be a little work here and there, but little things I will manage as they come and go. And oh, the joys of the little projects you do. I'd say I can come along on this just fine and make things better. And we've been thankful in our lives to kind of get a few issues settled. Kind of got a little issue with the kids there settled because same night I was talking to that lady about the stuff her grandmother made. It was kind of the same night we were talking about those kids, those middle schoolers that were coming up to my table and bothering me a little bit, but I'd say we kind of managed that. We got that under our belt and nipped that in the bud, so luckily it's all been taken care of, and there's ever been a time they've been back there when I was there, they didn't bother me. I will tell you that there was one kid, though, who I didn't see him there with his friends the night they were spoken to by one of the supervisors, but there was a time when they came back, he walked up to my table and said hello to me again, said, "What's up, bro?" And probably couldn't have minded that too much if he had kind of been a little more respectful than that whole bunch was, but I did kind of tell him that night, I said, "I don't know if you were here that night, the last time your friends were here, but last time they were, the manager spoke to them and told them that you all are not to bother me anymore." So he listened and kind of went about his way. He kind of got little things taken care of here. And there's been all kinds of stories I've heard over the years, and sometimes, just sometimes, there's little things that kind of happen because we're autistic. We don't watch where we're going. And about a little story today was I was coming back from the restroom in the back hallway of McLeod's and almost bumped into this sweet young lady who was like among the staff there. She was kind of walking out that door back to, to that place in the back where the staff goes behind the desk to work, behind the counter, and I tell you, she was a little more startled than I was. I probably felt a little more guilty than anything by how startled she was when we didn't see each other coming and kind of almost bumped right into her from the front. And I'd say little things like that, good things. I mean, we get them taken care of. She kind of is a real gracious person, a real understanding person, and we've kind of had little incidents before where little things have happened, and I've just kind of had to give a little space and kind of learn how to try to let things go. But I do tell you the reason I mention that is because there's so many ladies I work with on my job. They're a little older than me, and they just be more likely to tell me off for it. They'd be like, say excuse me and watch where you're going. The things that go on in this life, I say that, like whenever I got on Facebook that time and saw that little post a friend of mine commented on where the post said, do you ever still say excuse me when you walk in front of people? Man commented on it saying I do, and I shared the post, and in the post I said, I do believe this is something we should always do, but I tell you, because of my autism, sometimes I forget to do it when I'm in this situation, I said, and if you think I don't get reprimanded for it, believe me, I do. So, a lady with an autistic son who I used to work with on another job, she commented on it saying that she liked that. And I was telling my mother about that. She said she kind of understood a little more as to the reason why, because she might have been trying to teach her own son that. I tell you, there are certain things it's always good manners to do, no matter how stressed we might be, no matter how tired we might be. There's some things that I feel even worse about when I do it to my friends, and do it to some of the kindest people I know, and do it to some of the most gracious people I know. But, you always kind of come to realize, too, sometimes that, is when I kind of checked with her and make sure she was okay today, she was. She wanted to make sure I was okay, so, and that's just kind of a whole lot more grace than what I get from the ladies at work, so. And it's kind of like how it will be when I'm trying to sweep the floor, for example. Sometimes I won't be aware they're walking past me or right in front of me, and I'll keep on sweeping, and they'll kind of tell me to hold off for a little bit, just to let them walk past, or to let them get something on the elevator or something. So we see a little thing to how that goes. You can see that I've kind of gone a little further up the stuff hole, a little bit closer behind the fin, and this is something where when you do this, you gradually go to the center of it. You'll get to the center eventually, but there's going to be a time when you're going to leave a little space in there to take care of some little matters that flow through your life and flow through your days and make you think always about your choices. So I say that there's little things we do in life, and I will say about the lady I told you about with the walruses today. She came by in McLeod's today, saw me at the door. We greeted each other at the door, and while we were there, she told me that she watched my YouTube videos and really loved them and appreciated them, just liked watching all the work I could do. And sometimes I just kind of talk on and on while I'm working, and it's how it gets to be a go about. So we're taking things just as easily as they go, and I say that this little stuff is just making its way around. I say that that minister there who owns that coffee shop, I say, he's a good man. He tries, he always does what he can to help disabled people as much as he can. I even overheard from some people that he had ADHD himself, so, but nonetheless, I mean, God just kind of works in the most mysterious ways, uses us in the most mysterious ways. There's probably more things you wouldn't expect a person with autism to do than there are things you wouldn't expect a person with ADHD to do, but people tell me, that I've accomplished so much for even an autistic person. Like, I tell you, I drive a car, I get around, and I've recorded music albums, I've visited sick people in the churches I've been to, I've had sick relatives I used to visit that nobody else could or would, and so we kind of work our way around everything. And this, I say that finally made it a little closer up from the stuff hole this time, and thinking this time around we're going to do it on this other side too here, and try to get it to where we're going to make another mark a little closer to the tail and sew along that little tiny bit of a seam there. Well, it turns out we lost the thread here. It was kind of getting a little short. Probably need to come along with it a little more. Try to put it on and put it through the eye of the needle. And that also makes you think about that place in Scripture where when you put the thread through the eye of the needle, Jesus says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. There's a lot to that passage. It must be understood in its proper meaning. You can probably do a little research to find out more about that. But as for now, we're going to kind of go about this. We're going to sew through here and make the little line go as it needs to do. And I say that the work shall come along just fine. Sometimes in our lives, we got a lot to watch out for, a lot to look out for. There's a certain therapist I talk to about the issues I have in life and manage it very well. There's just gotten to be a lot of reasons why, of all things, there's just gotten to be some people who, from my experiences, have become people who, before I kind of start to try to talk to them, just kind of learn to wait for their cues first. Because it's been a lot of things in life where there's been a lot to experience. Sometimes people can kind of get a little unnerved and uneasy if I'm not careful. Sometimes just all the little things I can do just because of my ways of thinking and all, it can just kind of unnerve people a little bit. But I try to get a little better observance for things over time and learn how to kind of manage things a little better and manage things a little easier and quicker, because all things haven't worked the same in life. Things have always been different. So I just got a little place done on the stuff hole closer to the tail here, and believe I've gotten it fairly close on each side, but do believe there's one side on which I need to still leave it a little bit wide so I can kind of get in here and get the stuffing into it. So this is how it's going to come. This is how it's going to go. I say that in our lives, we kind of know that we appreciate people, the things they do, the things they teach us, and the things they tell us. I'm hoping sooner or later to be able to maybe do another video where I might be able to demonstrate the walruses I'm stuffing and meat, and while that, I will let this whale sit here while I go to get something else to show. As for the walruses that I told you about, the lady wanting me to make out of her mother's jeans and shirts, I finally did that. I took a pair of black jeans to make the body. I took a pair of blue jeans to make the muzzle, and the denim from a light blue denim shirt to make the tusks. That is one I've finished, and I've started working on another. Work on them little by little, one by one, gradually at a time. Try to get the best made of them. I say that little work does us a little good sometimes and makes us a little happy and blessed. Some people, I say, when I give them my little wooden figurines and all, they sometimes tell me about that just being the sweetest gift they ever got from somebody. It was all just a little good thing here and there, and we all just kind of want to show a little kindness and mercy to others now and then. Some people do have the gift of mercy, and I mean, everybody's spiritual gift is different. Some people might be gifted to teach or to be a pastor shepherd or anything like that. And there are certain gifts we know they have to come from God. We know that, if I remember correctly, those gifts are mentioned in Romans 12 as being the gifts that are given to us. There's just all these things where people have over the years come up with all these inventories for spiritual gifts, and there would always be one you'd rank the highest in depending on how you answered the questions on a certain scale with numbers. And I say it's just one of those things where when you kind of give an honest answer to things, you just start to really find out what your best gifts are. Sometimes I say that I've learned in life what my best gifts from God were. There's been times I used to think that I could practice music, a song, 2 or 3 times a day and give the Lord my best. That was probably giving him my best for that small little church I grew up in, where not many people were, and the smaller the churches are, the more forgiving they are in the manner. But there's been times when, with music, for example, I've thought that there have been churches where they think that to give the Lord your best at it means that you love it so much that you practice hours a day and get as good as you do from practicing hours a day. But I was telling my mom about that, and she said, and you just have to learn what your best gift from God is. She said, you just had to learn that singing and playing the guitar wasn't your best gift from God. So, I say we all just have good gifts, but kind of learn our best ones over time. That's kind of one thing I learned. I found out I always enjoyed working with wood and sewing a whole lot more. There's been so many things in my life I used to wish I could do when I was younger. Sports, athletes, be on school athletic teams and things like that. And like I'd say some of the most popular kids were on athletic teams, and that was the kind of thing where, I used to think since we didn't have them in elementary school, there were times I thought I'd do them in middle school because they were there. But of course, we all just kind of find out over time in life that Sometimes as a kid, you always just thought that sports would get you the most attention, give you an opportunity to be introduced to a whole audience at a pep rally or something like that. But it's the kind of thing where you just sort of find out over time that once you get older and start finding out what you're really good at, you find out people are going to envy that. Because I tell you, these days, I hear people tell me they wish they could be crafty and creative. Some of the people who tell me that as a grown man, as an adult, are some of the same people who were probably among some of the best athletes in school, maybe. These were people who, from what I talked to about them, they played sports in school, so it all just kind of did them a little good. And, you know, there's things we just kind of miss the older we get. People tell me they wish they could be crafty and creative like me, and one thing I always tell them is we all see something in somebody else we wish we could do. I said, there's a lot of typical things that most people can be that I wish I could be. So, this is where we come to know that as I'm doing here, I've already stuffed it all the way, finally sewing the final place in the stuff hole here, and probably will go a little further about this, try to get the rest of it done here, try to make it go smooth like it needs to be. I say that work comes like this. I say sometimes you go into places and you see a lot going on, but I will say unfortunately the thread got a little short here, so I've just got one more little place to sew closed and then we'll be done with it. And kind of try to make the final knot here for this project, final little stitch, final little threading, and get right on it, get down to business. So that's how it's going to go, and got one little place here left to stitch up, and we are going to do it. So that's right where the needle goes in, goes through, make our first knot in the fabric, and let it go in, let it go out, and well, I tell you, a little work comes this way, and shine our light on people, shine our light on the nations. There is one God, three persons. We know we pray a prayer that His will be done, and that He lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. There's been a lot of temptation Lord hasn't led me into, and there's been a lot of evil He's delivered me from lately, and so we all just kind of gotta be of our best caution in things and look out for the best of us. Kind of learn who our real friends are. Try not to let the wrong people take advantage of you. There's just those out there who, as you discover over time, if you let them, they will. Sometimes you kind of got to learn your limits. Can't let things go too far. Can't let people have too much of you, but it'll all just come along and work its way up. And I say that this is going to be the final knot here, and we're going to be done with the whale. Right now, I don't happen to have a Sharpie marker here, but what I will show you on this walrus is something I often do. Put in my initials and the year. Put in JDP 2022. So that's how we come along on that, and now we got the whale finished. The whale for the video. We know that There's been a lot of stories to watch lately online. I've been watching some YouTube videos about Jonah and the whale. The Bible actually says that was a big fish that swallowed Jonah, but a lot of people just kind of call it a whale these days to put it in simple terms. We know that in the story about Pinocchio, that Geppetto, which was Pinocchio's father, he was swallowed by a whale. They lit a candle and they got the whale to spit them out. And I know when we were kids, one thing our mama would tell us is that some people have been swallowed by whales and even died. That Jonah was probably the only one she knew of that was ever rescued or spat back out. So I'd say thankfully we got all this taken care of and the project is done. I'm going to turn this video off now and say that hopefully this will be the end of the series about sewing the whale. And next time I want to sew something, perhaps we can get on a new project here. Take care and goodbye.